Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 174 of my modded Factorio playthrough. It looks like we've got everything set up here, and now we can think about replacing this bus. I mean, it works fine, but we need to add more stuff to it, and it's just kind of getting outdated. Plus, as far as size is concerned, it's getting swallowed by the things that are around it. Now, granted, all of this would be removed, leaving just like the tree farm right here. So that could potentially be moved, but it doesn't really fit in its location anymore. And we want to connect by trains, because right now we have to send drones down and whatnot, and that's kind of just a patch fix. We want it to be decentralized. I thought we had a lot of space with our circuit bus here, but clearly not, because it's butting up right against these tracks here. That's a problem for another day. But basically, just kind of gives you an idea that buses can get very long. So probably starting it like somewhere right here. And just have it go as far as it can would be a good spot. Because I kind of want to leave this space right here open in case this needs to do the U-turn of shame and just turn around and go back this way so there's more space. Or we potentially could move those train tracks. I guess it wouldn't be the end of the world because they're just trains, so they would just go to the new station. And yeah, we're getting some silver warnings. It's a little annoying because it hasn't quite run through its silver yet. 7.8k, 7.7, it's getting there. But some here ought to work. It's not going to really block too many resource patches, especially considering I'm probably going to remove the Mad Clowns patches at some point, so it would really only be going over those. So the real ones we want to protect are things like the stereotypes here. So there's actually not a lot in this spot. Some coal, but that's not much of an issue. So when building a bus, one thing you want to consider is how much do you want to actually be on this bus? Now you can see that I don't want to have one bus to rule them all because I have two right here already. Like, look at this complexity that was just removed. Basically circuits, because so much goes into circuits that if you can handle circuits offsite, that's so much stuff that doesn't have to be on the main bus anymore. And when I say main bus, I mean the end of the line. Basically, the stuff gets turned into the final resources that we need in our inventory to expand. So this does produce modules, and it produces lots of circuit boards. And we have our science bus here. It's not as big. I was kind of thinking the science bus would be a lot more complicated than it ended up being. But we have a lot more science packs we can make, so it can expand still. But that's just that much more complication we don't have to deal with. So now the next step down the chain is do we want to have an intermediates bus? And intermediates are kind of an interesting thing. By intermediates, I mean, well, of course, circuit boards, I guess, technically count. But I mean things like gears, motors, engines, that kind of thing. Stuff that you need and potentially could remove complications from the main bus. Now, if you want to decentralize it, the main question is there any material benefit to doing so? For example, let's say we want to make our iron gears elsewhere. We can. Now, that's a fairly small amount of machines. Now, on the new bus, it will be bigger, but they'll also have speed modules. But the thing is do we still need iron plates for things? And just for giggles, let's see what iron plates go into. It's probably a lot. So much so that I need to put plate on here. Okay. 111 things. So are we really saving anything by not making iron gears? Not really, because iron goes into so much stuff in Factorio, there's kind of no point. And another thing you can do is look at, can you make this item in multiple ways? And we cannot. Making iron gears in an assembler is the only way to make them. So we're really not saving anything by making something like iron gears on another bus or an intermediates bus. And I think that's going to kind of apply to most things here. There are some unique circumstances which we might want to consider. And the best way to figure that out is follow these resources and find the resources that pretty much do nothing or very little. So what about wood? Well, we used to make circuits out of it until we started growing the trees to make the circuit boards. So that wood isn't getting used, and it does get sent down here for the balance changes from AI Industries, so you may not have this in your game, but that's to make the undergrounds and splitters, basically the tier 0 versions, the gray ones, and they go into the higher versions, so we do need them. You can see we also use stone for that, so that's one thing we use wood for. Then you go down the line and it goes into, well, making wooden crates, but we don't really use those anymore. And you go down and it's used for making resin, which goes into rubber, which we need for rubber wires. These insulated wires are something that go into stuff. High tier electric poles. A little bit. And actually, it does go into the integrated electronics. We can make this rubber chemically as well. We don't have to make it from resin anymore. And chemically is probably the better option because it uses a huge amount of wood to make a small amount of rubber this way. So when you look at this, our whole bus, the only thing this bus actually uses wood for are these components. Undergrounds and splitters. So wood is a prime example of something of, do we really want to put this on a bus when it's really not being used for anything? For example, could we put the wood on an intermediate bus, and then that wood would go into the few things that it is used for, undergrounds and splitters, and then those are transferred to the main bus through some logistics system, like drones. And then they'll be delivered probably directly to the machines that need them, rather than getting a slot on a bus here, because a slot full of like underground belts is kind of dumb. So that's an interesting example. So when we're thinking about what we want to do, we really need to consider, are there any resources that are prime candidates for an intermediate bus? Well, iron and copper are gimmies. Those are going on the main bus. Then we have bronze here, which goes into making belts, so that's definitely going to be a main bus thing. Tin is going to be a main bus thing. Lead is an interesting question. You might think, well, of course lead goes into stuff. Well, not so much. It goes into science, but science is gone. It goes into ammo, but we're probably going to make the better kind of ammo elsewhere. Probably in a military bus or an ammunition bus. So you keep following lead here, and it goes down, and it's batteries. And that's it. So why in the world send lead onto a main bus when we can just make the batteries somewhere else and send the batteries instead? And even plastic too. I'm sure plastic will go into other things, but right now plastics is being delivered solely for the purpose of these batteries. So we go to plastic. It's actually not as many things as I thought. 29. Ammunition. Batteries. Circuits. Actually not that much stuff, believe it or not. It probably isn't something that needs to go on a main bus either. So just by looking at this, we've saved ourselves wood, lead, and plastic from having to be on here. So you don't necessarily want to look at every resource you possibly can make and put it on a bus, because otherwise you'll run out of space really fast. So we've still been getting warnings. Want to keep an eye on this here and see what we're doing. Oh, it's actually going down pretty fast. 2.3, so in a couple more moments it's going to run out, and actually we'll have to go there and fix it. But let's look at some other stuff here. And another good example is the solder here. Of course, it only went into circuits to begin with, but those don't have to be included. Glass, probably yes. It does go into things we would want to manufacture. It goes into aquariums, labs, solar panels, arboretums, oil refineries. And then there's nickel. We're not even going to be making nickel plates, so we don't even have to worry about that. Steel's obviously yes. Carbon might actually be a no, because that's, yeah, that's a circuit board thing. And, of course, all of the tiers of circuit boards. And they will need brass. And there's the Invar. of course, all the tiers of bricks and things. So although stone also goes into these components here, it actually goes into more than that. It goes into rails and then stone furnaces, which are like the previous component of like all of the things that produce power. Goes in the boilers and steel furnaces, then the higher tiers from there. So stone's a little annoying, but we probably want to think of stone as like a tier 0 brick. So you have stone at tier 0, regular bricks at tier 1, clay bricks at tier 2, and then also one thing we've kind of injected in here are the concrete bricks and aluminum. So we have a candidate for an intermediates bus. I'm not sure which one should be made first, the intermediates or the regular bus. I'm thinking probably the regular bus, because then we find out the things we don't have and then build the intermediate bus and kind of populate it with those things. And silver is, oh, look at that. Just running out. And it's gone. Now we'll be able to upgrade that one with the silver coils, but it looks like the circuit bus will have to wait. So let's figure out exactly how many coils it would have to make. Probably already have this calculated out. Pretty much here. So we know we're going to have 3.75. So 3.75 of input. Looks about right, but we want productivity modules in there. So there's our build. 7 units. We can just copy and paste it from aluminum right here. And I don't think we were doing any silver wire here. It was just the silver bars. We can kind of follow it down the line here. Quickly running out. So silver is going down there and getting directly consumed. And down there. So yeah. So let's get this set up. Already hooked it into the train station. So it's slowly collecting coils. Takes quite a while at 15 per second of input. We can certainly speed that up if we need to, but the factory's based around this number, so we'll have to see if it works, and if it doesn't, we'll just increase production because we can. Basically, every resource we can produce at least 2 belts a second now, because each one is set up to 2 belts of input using the catalyst. And with catalyst, it easily keeps it topped off. No issue at all. So we have more room to expand if we need to. And it looks like these heat sources here went through their backup. And they're slowly working their way back down. So it looks like that setup worked alright. It just took a while to clear out. We're out of silver. But we should have silver coils now available. And we do. And we're requesting silver plates. So let's change that. Not sure exactly where we want to pull it off, but let's just grab that there. Switch those to silver. And we'll cut this out. And add negative 256 stacks of coils. And in a few moments, it should update. Let's see here. Well, these belts are kind of in the way. Probably give us a little extra space here by just squeezing this down. Doesn't look as pretty, but it gives us more room. So we needed about 7 of them. So we can just take 7 and pack them in here. No station for silver plates. I believe that's because the electronics bus was the one requesting the silver. Yeah. However, the sheet coils were properly requested. At least what we have on hand. And they're getting loaded. It can kind of be a little zigzaggy with this. So we can kind of come in like that. And then connect back. And will this reach all the way? Hey, it does. I think everything's still connected there. And switch this over to silver. Looks like the train got loaded, so it's on its way. Looking good, but this warning is set to the wrong thing. Haven't heard any warning since the settings were changed, but still. Too bad the color is so similar to steel, so it's kind of hard to tell the difference, but it's loading in there properly. And there we go. Hopefully that is enough silver. I guess we can kind of check it a little bit here. With rate calculator, we're producing about 20. And everything down here. We need about 10. So that should be more than enough. And that's upgraded. Might be worth going up here to the circuits and disable the request for the silver for now. Just to reduce the amount of spam we're getting. Because it's not actively being used. So I'll come in here and just remove the silver plate request. And we have one of my warnings going off. That is because I removed it. And we still have some on hand, so it's giving me a warning. I'm not sure if it would get the silver coils or the wire coils, but I'll just disable it for now, so hopefully this request will go away. And we will know there's a problem because eventually we won't have enough silver to make things like electronic boards, and we'll start getting warnings for those. That is if I don't remember to just manually check it at some point to see when it empties. Now that we have an idea of the design of the bus, now we need to figure out how big it's going to be, so we can figure out where to place it and start building some train stations. Well, for one, we now have access to red belts, which jump much farther gaps, and no station with silver coils, but that's because we just fired it up and it's slowly getting loaded, so we're probably going to see that warning for a while until it populates. It's definitely pretty small as far as silver output, but I'm okay with that. But our underground length is longer. And we've already integrated that style up here at Science, so we might as well do it again. Let's put this off to the side. We'll need to figure out exactly how many lanes we want here. For now, we can just kind of put these in here. Make it a little easier to see. And probably lots of chests. Because now we need to decide where are we going to put everything. Of course, these are all going to be coils. And that's actually something else to consider. Is that, like, for example, do we need to send tin if we're already making tinned wire coils? Well, in this case, yes. Because it is being used as a direct resource to make belts. Interestingly, though, not that much stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to have a slot on a bus, it just has to get delivered. So out of all this stuff here, it's all being made elsewhere, with the exception of the two belts. So, like we're delivering wood separately for that first tier, we can deliver tin separately for the next one. So tin probably doesn't need a spot at the table, so to say. Tinned copper wire, though, does go into more stuff, but not that much. Another thing we can do is to add two common resources to the same belt. So, you know, one half of the belt is, say, tin, and the other half of the belt is the wire. Which might work pretty well here. Because there's a couple things it goes into. Not that much though, but you don't want it to be so efficient that you have all these different buses handling things. Like if the intermediates bus is sufficiently complicated, it might as well be a main bus at that point. So we put iron in there. And then some tin. I'll just use these two things as placeholders. One is tin plates, and the other one is the tinned wire. And lead isn't sent up at all. Let's check those silver plates. They do go into some things. Solar panels, heat pipes. But not that much. And silver wire we checked goes into nothing. But silver does go into things. I don't think I have any silver on hand, but we'll just pretend that's silver because it looks pretty similar. And then right there, we definitely need aluminum. That is a major component. In 64 things. So obviously, yes. Iron, copper, tin, aluminum, and silver. Then we can do like the alloys. Steel. And invar. And brass and bronze. Bronze goes into, a few things, but the things we do need it for, we need an awful lot of it. Actually, I want to check tin as well, just to double check. Well, it takes 14 tin plate for one underground. So though it doesn't go into much, just one underground a second would completely max it out. Although I'm forgetting that it's not going to be coming in plate form, it's going to be coming in coil form, so the capacity is going to be 4 times higher. So a half of a red belt will produce 60 plates a second. So that's quite alright. So bronze, yes. And brass, yes. And I believe we did need glass as well. Yeah. See, coal is being sent in, but it's just for ammunition. And flares, but we don't need those anymore. So we probably don't have to worry about that. So now we need the stone things. Of stone. Regular bricks. Clay bricks. And concrete. And let's see, let's check the inventory, see if I'm holding on to any other resources, which would be a sign of things we need. Oh yes. Circuit boards. These basic circuit boards go into quite a few things. And of course, the higher tier ones do as well. And let's see, any other base resources? Oh, concrete. I don't know if we actually use concrete directly. Oh, we do. We definitely do. Yeah, looking at your inventory can be a good hint of what you might need. Because if it's good enough to be in your inventory, you probably use it enough times to make it worthwhile to have. Just glancing over here for any other resources I'm not thinking of. There is plastic. I think we determined that goes into very little. For now, I'm not going to worry about including it. Certainly, the bus can be modified at any point in the future to use resources that I'm not including. This is just to figure out how big the thing's going to be. So those are like the basic resources that we know we'll need. And how about 2 groups of intermediates and 2 groups of extra resources we're not thinking about right now. So that's 60 total belts worth. And how much do we have on our old one? So there's 6 wide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going from 36 to 60. That seems pretty healthy. Especially considering that several of these belts are not going to be used anymore. Now that we have a shape, what does it look like? Let's see, this seems pretty good. But because of trains, we may want to square these roads off and give more room for the train stations to form. I'll just leave that for now as a reminder. Let's see, this first one, how about we turn here and just go next to the coast. And then we can kind of go straight up like this. And then back over here, of course, it's not as direct. The more stuff you put in a factory, the less direct it can be. Okay, now that we've got a section coming up here, I'll try to continue it forward. Trying to reuse roads as much as I can. And then we can start chopping road bits off here. The drones are getting confused now. Never actually tried that before. Looks like they don't like it. And they disappear. I'll just leave the power lines here for now. We've got that squared off. Probably just want to smooth this part out a little bit. I'll worry about the position of all the power poles later. Power poles don't have to go along every single road. It's just a convenient place to do it. Okay. Looking smooth. We have a nice square here to work with. So now we need to build some dynamic stations. Still working on that silver. It's complaining about not having it, but it's keeping up just fine. It's just taking a long time to fill up that warehouse. And research is moving along. But once we set up this new network... I was going to drive back where the roads used to be, but now... now the path is longer. Sigh. At least it still drives itself. But once we build all those new stations, we're going to nuke the network. And we'll see how everything works. And hopefully go through a bunch of that nickel and clear that out. Of course, we still have both a bunch of N-bar and a bunch of nickel sitting at the main bus still. But we'll deal with that when the time comes. So this being a final bus, there shouldn't be any output resources. None that we won't take with us directly or by bot. It's just unloading stations we need to do. But that's going to have to wait until the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.